I didn't make it to the theater this week, but you did. And what did you see?
I saw Zola, the A24 film, finally out after a rapturous reception at Sundance 2020 before the pandemic, and been excited to see it given the hype I was aware of at this point. Known, I think, just talked about it as like this is the Taylor Page breakout. You know Taylor Page from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Eddie Huang's Boogie, but now this is her in a full leading role. Exciting. And she's very good in it. Very good in it. So very happy to see. I think we all know at this point Taylor Page is quite a talented actress that needs a lot of work. She seems to be getting hired with lots of stuff. So people know, and that's good. And I think what's so funny about Zola is just the origins of this film. It's adapted from a famous Twitter thread from 2015, a 148, I believe, tweets long thread from a woman who goes by Zola. Is her nickname. Her last name is Moon. I forget. Yeah, Zola. She did this whole long Twitter thread and it went viral in 2015. It's a story about how she met a fellow stripper while she was working at like a Hooters type restaurant, and they kind of hit it off, and they decided to take like a weekend trip down further south into like the Tampa, Florida area to just go to some clubs and make some money, pole dancing and stuff, and then hijinks ensue, and it's like this crazy whirlwind type weekend thing. So that and there was a Rolling Stone article about Zola about the story, and like I think that the film is also crediting that feature as well as the technical Twitter thread itself, right? And the movie is largely a adaptation of that story told in the tweets and further embellished in that story on Rolling Stone, and it's pretty crazy, pretty wild, but it's also a lot of fun. You know, it has the like some obvious comparisons to like Hustlers, of course, namely that you're dealing with strippers, but I think like the energy of the story and like the vibes of the story are almost more similar to something like Spring Breakers from Harmony
Okay.
Korine. So kind of like a combination of those. And Riley Keough plays the stripper who hits it off with Zola, played by Taylor Page, and they make that trip down to Florida. Also involved, we have Coleman Domingo, who is the one driving them down. We learn later that he's actually Riley Keough's pimp because she's not just a stripper; she's also a prostitute. And there's like this whole big thing about whether they want to get Zola to prostitute with them. Also along for the ride, you have uh, Riley Keough's cuckold boyfriend, played by Nicholas Braun, aka Cousin Greg from Succession.
Yeah, Greg the Egg.
Perfectly cast once again. He really knows how to kind of like be his like doofy self. He does a good job, and yeah, like the movie just has like a really fun energy to it.
Mhm.
I think there's also some like important like more like observational traits to it. Namely, Riley Keough's Stephanie character has this really thick performative black scent, kind of like how like Bad Baby, the
Mm.
way she talks, right? Obviously, not sounding like a traditional white person, and you can tell how Zola reacts to this sort of thing. And I think if there's a flaw with the movie, it would be just it fizzles out a little bit with the end. But between like, I actually think it has really effective narration, really effective use of like Twitter sound effects when like important things happen. It's like, oh, here's another moment that will be tweeted.
Mhm.
There's a lot of cool things about it, and you know, some good montage work. Like it's fun. So yeah, Spring Breakers vibes. I think that's what I would just try and pitch it as.
Looking through Jancica Bravo's uh, film credits here, she's credited with the Juneteenth episode of Atlanta. Really interesting.
Yeah, I believe she's one of the writers.
And I think it's really like interesting that seems to be her first feature length. And I mean, the way you're talking about it, seems like this might be someone to be keeping our eye on. It sounds like she has a nice way of integrating these like modern stories into really palatable and fun ways. And even just the background shot you're using here, it looks like it has that like A24 like almost like Technicolor type touch to it. I
Mhm.
definitely want to check it out whenever I can probably see it outside of theaters. But um, yeah, so it sounds like a really great movie. Is this one of your like biggest surprises of the year? Would you say?
I wouldn't say surprised just because I knew how like well liked it was, but
Mm.
it's crowd pleasing in a fun way. Like it does a really good job of maintaining tension and humor the whole time. I think notable in this is this movie was shot in I believe 20 like late 2018. Like it's quite old at this point, and featured in the role as a Floridian they meet would be Jason Mitchell. And Jason Mitchell, of
Mm.
course, has, I think, largely fallen out of favor in Hollywood because he was fired from The Shy due to some misconduct and also had some legal issues separate from that. So it might be the last Jason Mitchell role we see for a long time, given what's
Yeah.
going on with him. But for what it's worth, I did think he was well cast. Um, yeah, I mean, check out uh, the Twitter thread. Check out some of
Mhm.
it. It's like archived everywhere. It's easy to see. It's really funny. It's really good. And like I said, Taylor Page is probably the big takeaway here. But also, yeah, Janiska Bravo. You're not. It's a good point. It's actually her second feature film.
Oh, is it?
Definitely,
Sorry, I missed that.
yeah, definitely talented.
Um, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I also gotta say, Riley Keough. I like a lot of things she's in. I feel like she's her stock is rising